Cowboys Commanders, divisional matchup here.
Mhm.
Um,
Woo.
Wonder if Deion Sanders is going to be watching this one for any reason at all whatsoever. What do you have as the matchup that
Can't
matters here for this one,
I
Carmen?
can't I can't think of why.
Yeah, I don't know.
Um,
Maybe some scouting.
Drew Sanders is going to the East West Shrine game, which is held in Frisco, Texas this year. That's probably unrelated news. Probably.
No, totally unrelated news.
Totally unrelated news. Anyway. Uh, Dallas is awful rushing defense against what is actually oh no, they're rushing offense. It's bad both ways. But
It is bad both ways.
it's bad both
You
ways.
honestly, you didn't have to correct yourself because I think I'm going on the other side of things. But go
Yeah,
off.
okay.
We'll,
All right.
we'll cover our bases either way.
I was gonna say I'm going their rushing offense because Washington, their run defense is struggling right now as well.
Yeah.
So I'm going on that side of things. You're right. I could have just flipped that, and it still would have been a matchup that matters. It's the run game across the board, but Cowboys rushing offense ranks 31st, 817 rushing yards this year, 18 rushes
Bad.
gaining 10 or more yards, which is fourth fewest.
Yeah.
Commanders rushing defense, 1,655 rushing yards allowed. Oh, but this is yeah. So that's the most of any team. And then 48 rushes allowing 10 or more yards, tied for the most. So the Commanders they are oozing yards on the ground. And the Cowboys, up until this point, haven't been able to take advantage of that, even going against other teams that have let up some yards on the ground. Rico Dowdle looks a lot better than you probably thought he was going to coming into this season for the Cowboys. The Cowboys are masters at just saying things and like declaring things that pretty much everybody already knew. Like a couple weeks ago, I think it was Jerry Jones or Mike McCarthy that came out and just said, "Yeah, Rico Dowdle's our lead back." We're like, "Yeah, of course he is. It's not the ghost of me."
But then that was the graphic, like that was the graphic
Right,
that they
right.
that
It was like he's our
lead
dude, and you're
back.
like
Yeah,
making something out of
we
nothing.
know
Like
actually.
the Cowboys are just absolute masters at making something out of nothing, or making nothing out of something too. There's that as well. But on this side, I'm going, all right, they cannot run the ball. You have Cooper Rush, who has been not great. I think coming into this, when you said you were going to go to Cooper Rush after Dak's injury, you said, well, we were 5-1 with Cooper Rush as a starter before. That is no longer the case.
Sure.
And so you want to be able to lean as much on the run game as you possibly can if you're Dallas, and again, going against a team that has been giving up yards on the ground.
I'll flip to the other side of things. I'm going to go with the Commanders' offensive line, specifically against the Cowboys' defensive line. You could throw into, I'll get into my plus factor in a second, which has to do with the Commanders' run game and the Cowboys' run defense. But specifically, I was really impressed by the Washington Commanders offensive line through the early parts of the season. They were one of the top 10 offensive lines in the NFL, I think, through the first 8 weeks. And since then, over the last month, 3 out of the 4 lowest graded games that they have had as a unit have come over the last month. And so they're on a bit of a low streak here. The Cowboys defensive line, sort of a nice get right game situation, which is wild to say with Micah Parsons. Obviously, Mike is going to play really well because he's back from injury and he's going to stay motivated, because I think that's the type of player that the Micah Parsons is. So not saying that part of it's going to be easy, but the rest of it, can you really command the ground game specifically, which brings me into my plus factor, which is Brian Robinson Jr. Last week, 13 carries, 63 yards. Brian Robinson Jr. hasn't been like this multi-100-yard game, like stacking up multiple 100-yard games in a row or anything like that. But his presence and his efficiency has been a big reason why the run game for Washington has been as successful as it was during the first half of the season. So tying these a little bit together here with my matchup that matters in my plus factor, I'd like to see Brian Robinson Jr. have a yards per carry average above 4 once again, maybe even above 5. That's when this offense was really operating very well. We talk about Jayden Daniels. His role in all this is obviously very important, but how they have been able to complement him with a very good and efficient run game, certainly through the first half of the season, was something that I feel like has been missing over the last couple of weeks. So can the offensive line really handle things against a bad run defense team in the Dallas Cowboys? And can Brian Robinson Jr. get back to his efficient ways, maybe even climb closer to that 100-yard game mark yet again? What's the plus factor here for you?
This is kind of more of the overarching thing as we're going forward here with the Dallas Cowboys, captained by Cooper Rush, although I guess Trey Lance is maybe going to sneak in there for some packages and stuff like that. But I mean, Trey Lance did not look good in training camp. So I think that this is still Cooper Rush's job for the most part. But can he get the ball to CeeDee Lamb? The fact that CeeDee Lamb is on pace for career lows in catch percentage, yards per reception, success rate. He has the third most contested catches of any wide receiver with a minimum of 25 targets and 16 explosives, and he's been able to do that with a middling offense. But the fact that he's really the only guy that is featured on that offense, and he's still on pace for these career lows, it just doesn't sit well with him, especially, I have to think that with Cooper Rush, that has to be priority number one, is trying to get the ball to CeeDee Lamb while not throwing, into bad situations, taking care of the football, all that kind of stuff. So CeeDee Lamb going against Benjamin St-Juste in this game, theoretically, how is that going to work? Is Cooper Rush going to be able to get the ball to him? We know that CeeDee Lamb can go up and get those contested catches, but St-Juste is going to try to make that as hard as possible. 8 forced incompletions by St-Juste. 40 catches allowed for 507 yards this season so far. He's been targeted 62 times, or his receivers that he's been covering have been targeted 62 times. He's played a total of 337 snaps. So overall, he's the workhorse of that secondary in Washington, especially now, like Marshawn Lattimore is not healthy yet. And
Right.
you're probably eyeing after the bye for him to return or to return to play. They don't want to rush him. And especially when you have these games that are very winnable, it's going to be it's going to fall on St-Juste to try and stop CeeDee Lamb, or if he even gets the ball, which I think it boils down to Cooper Rush, if he can get him there. I don't know. I'm not super in on the Dallas Cowboys right now, if you couldn't tell, because I don't think anybody is.
Yeah, not a lot of people are. Thanks for watching, everybody. Make sure you like and subscribe the video. And if you don't have a PFF Plus subscription, you can get one to see all the premium stats that we talked about here on the show, plus the expert betting and fantasy advice over at subscribe.pff.com. The description is also right below, so if you are not a PFF Plus subscriber, you become one today.